David Frost, Boris Johnson's man, chief guy in these EU negotiations, has spoken out and directly addressed some points made by the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier. Now, I know that a lot of you are big fans of Frosty the Nomad, actually Lord Frost, we should call him. But he's answered and he's responded and hit back, exposing EU truth directly after Michel Barnier recently tweeted. So before we get into this, guys, as ever, please give this video a thumbs up, click subscribe and the bell so you don't miss the next report, and let's dive into this. So this obviously kicked off over the weekend. I think the EU were rattled somewhat by Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister's article in The Telegraph, where he basically alleged that the EU were trying to break the UK up with effectively a potential food blockade to Northern Ireland. And this being the reason that the internal market bill is required by the UK to effectively as an insurance policy. Now, Michel Barnier came out and said that the protocol is not a threat to the integrity of the UK. He said, we agreed this delicate compromise with Boris Johnson and his government in order to protect peace and stability on the island of Ireland. Barnier saying we could not have been clearer about the consequences of Brexit. And then Barnier following up by saying, sticking to facts is also essential. A case in point, EU is not refusing to list UK as a third country for food imports. Barnier concludes by saying, to be listed, we need to know in full what a country's rules are, including for imports. The same objective process applies to all listed countries. Now, what I like about the approach on Brexit from this government versus last one is, rather than being meek and hiding away, David Frost directly responded to that statement there from Michel Barnier. And this is what Lord Frost said. He said, I'd like to make a few comments and state a few facts in my capacity as the PM's negotiator in the current and last autumn's talks. On the protocol, we indeed negotiated a careful balance in order to preserve peace and the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. It is precisely to ensure this balance can be preserved in all circumstances that the government needs powers in reserve to avoid it being disrupted. On third country listings, the EU knows perfectly well all the details of our food standards rules because we are operating EU rules. The situation on the 1st of January 2021 is accordingly perfectly clear. We have discussed this frequently, Frost says, with the EU, including last week. Any changes in future would be notified to the WTO and the EU in the usual way with plenty of lead time. The EU lists dozens of countries globally on precisely this basis without any sort of commitment about the future. Frost goes on. He said, yet it has been made clear to us that in the current talks, there is no guarantee of listing us. I'm afraid it has also been said to us explicitly in these talks that if we are not listed, we will not be able to move food to Northern Ireland. The EU's position, Frost lays out, is that listing is needed for Great Britain only, not Northern Ireland. So if GB were not listed, it would be automatically illegal for Northern Ireland to import food products from Great Britain. Frost concludes, I hope the EU will yet think better of this. It obviously makes it no easier to negotiate a good free trade agreement and a solid future relationship which we all want. Now, a comprehensive response there, really breaking down the points and laying out the reality of the situation. What I'd like to know in the comments, guys, have you seen those comments, that reply, that response from Lord Frost giving the UK side? Have you seen that reported in mainstream media? Because it seems to me that and it's been highlighted elsewhere by other people, but the EU's word sort of gets taken as gospel, and there's deep scepticism and scrutiny from the media on the UK side, but not on what the EU is saying. And there you go, David Frost really going head to head in terms of setting out the UK position versus what the EU are saying. So let me know how you've seen that reported. Now, there's been some response to that. My former Brexit Party MEP colleague Alexandra Phillips responding to Lord Frost's statement saying, utterly breathtaking. Where is the international outcry? Where is the media pointing out the EU's inconceivable demands? Let me go back a second. Lord Frost, the EU's position is that listing is needed for Great Britain only, not Northern Ireland. So if GB were not listed, it would be automatically illegal for Northern Ireland to import food products from GB. And Frost also saying again, I want to highlight this because it's important, I'm afraid it has also been said to us explicitly in these talks that if we are not listed, we will not be able to move food to Northern Ireland. Former Labour MP Kate Hoey, responding to Lord Frost's statement as well, saying, will BBC News cover this, or are they too busy interviewing those who support the EU? And guys, I think that's why channels like Westminster are gaining popularity thanks to your support. It's because all too often, as I say, we see the EU side of the story presented as fact and the UK response heavily scrutinised or even just completely ignored in some cases. Now, one of those who's responded to what's been going on is former Northern Ireland Secretary Theresa Villiers, who's come out and said it's important to have this fallback option in case there isn't a sensible agreement. It would be intolerable if there was a ban on food transfers from GB to Northern Ireland. It would be intolerable if there was a customs border between GB and Northern Ireland. And someone else who's really written about this, absolutely fascinating piece, and I really recommend you go and read this over at the Telegraph by Ambrose Evans Pritchard. And what he's basically said is that the Northern Ireland Protocol was agreed on the assumption that Brussels would agree to an off-the-shelf Canada, Japan, Korea trade deal with no bells and whistles, as Mr Barnier himself had offered, Evans Pritchard writes, and therefore that there would be no more than a light touch trade border between Britain and Ulster. On that basis, the Unionists said they could live with it. The EU, he says, have since moved the goalposts. He goes on to say in this piece, again by Ambrose Evans Pritchard in the Telegraph, the Good Friday Accord is also an international treaty. The withdrawal agreement cannot override it and impose a new constitutional regime on the Unionists without their consent. The UK Internal Market Bill is therefore a necessary safeguard. It is to be activated only in the case of emergency, should the EU act on Barnier's threats and further weaponise the protocol. And again, Ambrose Evans Pritchard concluding, but the UK has to defend itself against predatory diplomacy, deal or no deal. So there you go, guys. That's the direct response there from the British government, courtesy of Lord Frost, to the EU, but also importantly highlighting the reality of what is going on in these negotiations. Because as I say, I think too often the media tend to buy into whatever the EU is saying during this negotiation without much scrutiny. And there you have a direct response from Lord Frost exposing the EU truth of what is going on and what is being talked about during these negotiations. If you've enjoyed this report, guys, please remember to give this video a big thumbs up, click subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss future reports. And of course, thanks very much for watching.